Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I am Brad here with Doug.
Hi.
So Doug and I both jumped on the Game Pass train for a minute here. I think you're fully on board that, right? You're just like
Well,
paying for it all the time.
well, yeah, the PC Game Pass is like $5 a month, and it's just worth it's just easy money out of my pocket. I don't know. When it actually there was a while I got it like when it first came out. I was like, oh, I'm gonna use it for big games, and then I was like, because I thought it was $10 a month, and I found I was like only five, and I was like, well, all right.
$5 isn't that big a deal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and every once in a
and
while something pops up. Like I started playing Halo the other day.
good decision.
Yeah.
One of the best. But anyway, I am on board the hey, Ori just came out. I'll pay that small little amount of money
Yeah.
to play Ori for a month. So
The smart way to do it.
exactly. Before Ori came out, had a little bit of time and I checked out Slay the Spire, which is a game that I'd heard a little bit about. And I just honestly, it's one of those ones that sometimes you just see a game and it has crazy good reviews and you're like, what the hell is that about? I've never even heard of this thing. So I kind of glanced at it and took a look at it and tried it for a bit and then convinced Doug that he had to try it because this game is phenomenal.
It is amazing, and it is a game. If described out loud, it sounds like my worst nightmare.
And that was what I was going to say. I think if you actually just started listening to something about this or you heard somebody talk about it, or even if you watched gameplay of that, I don't quite think it registers how much fun it is.
Yeah.
Because,
I remember installing it and seeing the screenshots. I'm like, why am I installing this? Like, why? It's just like the art's not terrible. It's like it's just like it's okay. It's okay.
but once you start playing,
Yeah.
it's addicting because you actually played it on Game Pass and then you were going out of town and bought it on Switch so you could play it on your trip,
I
correct?
did. I did. It was funny because because I had the PC version. I played that like it was funny because I think I started that. I think I downloaded it was like 9:30 at night. I was like, okay, I'll put my 5 minutes into it. You'd done the exact same thing. You said you were gonna spend 10 minutes on it. It took like an hour or something like that.
Yeah, yep. It was one of those like 10 o'clock, like, oh, I got like a half hour before I'm going to go to bed. Let's see what I can do. And then, oh, crap, it's 11:30.
Yeah, and I did the same thing, but I did 9 till I think 1 in the morning.
So
Yeah.
anyway, you can kind of see where we're at on this. But like I said, if you actually hear us describe this game and you're like, this sounds boring, once you have a chance to have Game Pass, just go install it for a second. And it's like super
Yeah.
cheap in a couple other places if you want the PS4 or Xbox One version. But anyway, so it's a deck building game, which if you're not really familiar with that term, it's kind of basically a board game. So the style of board game is basically you get random selections of cards come into your deck, and as you go through the game, your deck gets bigger and bigger. So you have 8 cards that you start with. I think it's 8, maybe 9. 8 or 9. You start with a couple cards, just some basic attacks and some basic blocks. And as you go through, you fight different monsters on your way up this tower. There's 50 floors, 3 acts. At the end of each act, there's a boss battle. But as you go, every time you beat a monster, you get a new card. So by the end, you've got this deck full of cards, and the cards get more powerful as you progress. Again, sounds like, okay, so I'm just throwing cards out there and something's happening.
Yeah.
But there's something about it, and honestly, like when I was playing it, I was trying to put my finger on what is it that's so addicting about this, and I just can't figure it out because it's definitely got that Trials or that Super Meat Boy. This just one more run, but the runs take about an hour to an hour and a half depending on
Yeah,
how
they're
far
not
you
short
get.
runs by any means.
But it feels like it just flies past. And again, you can just kind of throw these cards out really quick. And, as you go through, you get more and more powerful ones. So there's sometimes where you're like, oh, I can just do like, just wreck these things so quick that like, oh, I can just do like 6 more floors. It's not going to take any time.
Yeah, no, it's wild. I think the thing that I find like that I think the thing that's really really addicting about it is that when you're playing a board game, you're making sort of like decision making, but in order to enact that decision, you actually need to do things. Like I need to move my piece here, I need to take 3 tokens, and then I need to bank these tokens and stuff. But all that sort of like physical what would you call that? Bureaucracy of a board game?
Yeah, that's a good word. Yeah.
Yeah, there's none of it. And so it's just that thinking in that board game mindset of strategizing without any of the mess. And
Yeah.
I think that really helps because your brain is never turned off from that mode. And then the fact I think they spent a lot of time on how fast the game plays. It's amazing. Like if you're, like you said, like if you can just steamroll a character, you're like pop, 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 and you throw out cards so quick and it feels amazing.
Yeah, because there's a couple of times where I'd get to the point where like, oh, that's only got 10 health left. It doesn't even matter what card I'm hitting. I'm just spamming the A button on my Xbox controller, and whatever card comes out, just bam, bam, bam. Okay, cool, you're gone. I know that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
let's move on. Let's go. And
It
I
feels
think you're
good.
right.
It feels
Yeah.
really good.
And I think that's a good point that it takes that bureaucracy out. You're not sitting there because I think my biggest issue with board games is like, I don't. patience isn't the right word, but by like
Sure.
45 minutes into it, I don't really need to sit here and watch somebody take 30 minutes to think about their next move.
Yeah.
Or even if you're playing a cooperative game where you're playing like against the board, I've got to stop and go, okay, let me put my turn down. What happens? Oh, this happens, this happens, this happens. And it's
Yeah.
just, this just is like, okay, fight one. Oh, you win. Cool. Fight two. Oh, you win. Oh, here's a treasure room. Here's your treasure. There you go.
Yeah.
Take it. Move on. Get going. Get going. Get going. And it's just this constant
Yeah.
sense of progression. And even the game, like, there's very little load time on Xbox One. There's very little space in between. There's no like real menus. I mean, it's just when you fight the character, boom, take the card, take the potion, move on. Take the card, take the fight.
Yeah, and I like besides how like snappy it is, and trust me guys, this like feels amazing when you're playing it. The one thing I did like, and I constantly felt like I was getting more and more powerful. Like when it feels like you steamroll a character, it's not because the cards are random. Like I think the thing that's kind of weird is like it's a roguelike, so you're like there is a lot of randomization obviously.
Yeah.
But like when you steamroll a character, it's because you did X, Y, and Z. And the thing that I really like is the rules are like really simple. You know exactly what the enemy is going to do, and so you can either plan to like block during this attack or to attack during this attack, and that is like the basics. And you know if the enemy is going to block, they're going to attack, or if they're going to do some sort of
And
status effect on you.
And you even know like they're going to do 18 damage to you. So you even have that mentality of going, well, I have 85 HP right now, so it does 18, whatever, cool, I'm going to attack then. And it kind of previews some of the things, it previews what the enemy is going to do, which again just adds to that like thinking mechanic, the thinking that you talked about, where it's like, okay, I can keep my thoughts going the whole time. I don't have to wait and see what they're going to do. I know what they're going to do, so I can plan my moves. Okay, they just real quick do their moves, do that animation. Okay, I'm back to thinking about my next move already.
Yeah. I think the game also does a really good job of tricking you into not being a card game, because it played actually when I first started playing, it actually did remind me of turn-based combat, like in an RPG. Like,
for sure.
I wouldn't mind playing an RPG with this system, and I feel like there's not many I haven't played one. I know they exist, like Bakhtin Kea, whatever. There's these games exist. I understand they exist. This is the first one I played, but just that turn-based combatness of it. I just really, really liked it because it was kind of tricking my brain and like not thinking it's a card game. And that's the part I like. I like really, really appreciate. I think that's like part of the other aspect. It's like, oh, this feels like a video game sort of thing, but I'm thinking in this board game mindset. Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed. Not disappointed that this is a roguelike, but like I would just really love to see like whatever Slay the Spire 2, if it's just like, let's just do an RPG.
Well, I mean, there's enough in here because you've got the 3 characters. I think the PC has 4. Didn't the PC get a 4th that I think hasn't come
Yeah,
out,
the PC
so.
just did get a 4th. I don't know. I swapped a Switch anyway, so I'm never going to touch the PC version again. I'm sure that character's great. I don't know.
But so it has 3 characters. So, I mean, there's enough to do. And like you said, it's a roguelike that goes through and basically you're just randomizing the order of the board and you're randomizing the enemies that you see and the bosses that you get and the cards. I mean, well, and the cards you get. So there's a lot of randomization to it. But because it has that board game feel, and I think board games to the point, a lot of points are random. It just fits perfectly where you're going, okay, this isn't some cheap trick to get me to keep replaying this, which is the thing I get into with most roguelikes where I just feel like, okay, yep, I died. All right, what did you... Oh, now you're going to change it, so I don't know what to do, and I just got to do the same shit over again, but it's slightly different. Great. But
yeah, I never felt completely screwed.
Exactly. It's never like, oh, this is just going to be a bad run because I'm seeing X, Y, and Z to start with. There's a couple times where I'm sitting there going, oh, man, I got crap cards. I got crap power-ups. Like, everything sucks. But by the time you get through that Act 1, because once you've played a few times, you kind of get the basics down, where Act 1 essentially just becomes a breeze to get through. And it's basically, okay, how can I pick up 1 or 2 good things that I know by the time I get to Act 3 are really going to help me out? That was kind of my goal by the time I got to playing it for 7 or 8 hours was, okay, pick up my 2 things. I'm past Act 1. And again, that randomization thing kind of adjusts the way you play almost, because the one of the few times that I actually finished it and got through my run, I just decided to go all block. And I found this really good card in Act 2 where it was like, oh yeah, you can just keep your block because your block goes away. So I can build up 60 block and block all the attacks of my enemy. And then maybe I've got 40 left over. That just disappears. This card let you stack block.
Yeah.
So by the end, when I got to the final boss, I think it took like 12 HP of damage because I would just go add 30 block, add 80 block, or add 40 block, add 6 block. So every time it was just like, oh, you're going to do 18 damage. I'm going to add 2 block this turn. So it just kind of kept piling. And depending on those early cards you get, and depending on what, especially when you get into Act 2, you can start to go, okay, which way am I going to build my deck? Am I going to go towards block? Am I going to go towards There's some cards that kind of build on each other, some cards that don't cost things because there's kind of a, I guess to use more video game terms, like an MP type of system where you're like, oh, you only get so many turns, quote unquote, or how much of cards you can use. And then, okay, I've got these 0 cards. So there's so much that you can stack in there that just...
Yeah, because the things I like about that is like there's a small number of cards, so it's actually easy to start learning what different cards do. And because you're going to keep seeing these cards over and over and over again, it's much easier to strategize than I would think like something like Magic the Gathering or a more intense card-based board game. There's just going to be so many cards that it's like you're just not going to know how they all interact with each other. But because this game isn't so exhaustive with the number of cards, you can see how they start playing into each other like pretty early on. So it's neat, like kind of getting that deck building aspect, strategizing aspect like pretty early on, and then exploiting it later.
With that, again, that kind of dictates the way that your deck goes. Like, do you go towards black because you're seeing these cards that are going to preview that, like, okay, that's where I'm going to end up with my power at the end? Does it lead you to attack? Does it lead you towards status effects? Where does it lead you to? And then one other thing just to throw out, because you mentioned that it's not exhaustive, there's 3 separate characters, and each character plays completely different. In the way that their decks are built, because you've got kind of your main, just the guy that I use as my main was basically just power, block. That's it.
Swordman.
Yeah, the generic, like, you're an adventurer with a sword and you're going to run up and hit the things, then block the things. But there's also, and I honestly don't remember the names off the top of my head. The second one uses more status effects. It deals a lot with like poisoning the enemy, and then, okay, how can I get that to stack from the couple runs I did with them? And then the third one was weird and very unique.
Just wacky.
You get like different orbs that give you powers, and those orbs go off at the end of your turn. It's really complex. I played with it a few times. It's kind of a cool system, but it was one of those things where it's like I was rolling with my just blocking and attacking. So
it is hard to swap like once you've like realized how to kind of exploit the systems.
But it definitely feels like 3 very distinct characters that play very distinctly different. And in a game like this, it's not like, oh, I get it. Like my attacks are slower and I have to use my magic more. It's like, no, you have to completely rethink the way that you're playing this with each character.
Yeah. And it does seem like I did dabble like a little bit with both of them. But honestly, like just getting to the end feels so good.
Oh, yeah.
That I was like, it was kind of hard to like start on new characters. But I think, so I think we definitely both beat the game. And I'd say you definitely put some good time in like the secondary characters. I don't think I got to the end with the other 2 characters though.
I just got it with the one. I think I did maybe 4 runs with the second character, the one that deals with poisoning. And I think I did maybe 5 or 6 with the other one. And
it's hard once you know all the strategies for the one character to move on to the next guy. It's like, I don't want to start all over again.
But I can win, or I can get... And again, it just has that carrot on the end of the stick because of the way that the random enemies like level up as you go and get powerful. Once you get to the top of Act 3, there's so many where you're like, oh, I was 1 away from that boss fight. Let's run it again. Let's go again.
You could feel like the impending doom sometime in battles. You're like, I think this is going poorly.
Oh yeah, for sure. You can definitely see that coming. So.
And they definitely let you play out the final turn too. Even if you're totally screwed, like they'll let you play it out. Like, you're dead. You got 2 health.
There were a couple of times
with like 34 damage.
There were a couple of times where I saw it coming. I'm just like, oh, if I do this, nope, that's not, nope.
Yep.
And this,
I'm gonna play my damn cards though. I'm not gonna retry my run. I'm gonna take that hit.
Well, anyway, this is weird's not the right word, just a very unique game that I think is one of those games, and there's a few of them out there where I just think no matter what you see, what you hear about it, it really takes getting it in your hands, playing with it before you can really get a feel for how good this is and how different this is, and how much of a special thing this game is. So I would be way more than excited for more Slay the Spire and keep looking at Switch and going like, man, this is the perfect game for Switch just to have.
It is the perfect game.
But my Game Pass one is already there. And,
well, wait till you're on your next vacation.
Exactly.
Well, whenever that happens.
Vacations aren't a thing anymore. I don't think you're allowed to do that.
No, I don't think society's allows to have anybody have vacations anymore. Yeah.
Well, anyway, we are Workforce Gaming. You can follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming. Subscribe to us wherever you're listening, and we will see you later.
Bye.